Welcome to She's in the Weeds.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Hollis.
We're best friends exploring the intersection of pop culture and the female experience.
Be sure to follow us on socials and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if you love us, give us that 5-star review.
Nailed it?
I think it's fine.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey.
Okay, so we have a special episode today. We have talked in the past about doing the occasional true crime episode. Obviously, this is a pop culture podcast, but true crime does become part of pop culture, and we thought there might be certain cases and things that we would cover that were impactful to us, you know, either when we were younger or even through our adult life, things that were like a big part of the cultural zeitgeist. And us being from Bloomington, it just makes sense that the first one that we do would be the disappearance of Lauren Spierer. And coincidentally, our episodes come out on Wednesdays, and you will be listening to this on Wednesday, June 3rd of 2026, which will be 15 years to the day that she disappeared.
Wild. I cannot believe it's been 15 years.
I can't believe it has either. I recently read the book College Girl Missing, written by Shawn Cohen. And, you know, we've had so little information about this case over the past, 13, 14 years. I believe this book came out in 2024. And it really does have a lot of information that was never released to the public. I don't know that he necessarily uncovered that much information. There are a few things that he did find out about, but it's just a lot of information that was never released that he has in this book. And so it was a lot of new information.
Yeah, because I don't remember hearing a lot about it even when it happened.
No, there's never been a lot of information, at least not known to the public. So I'm going to be drawing a lot of the episode, the information that I give you in the episode from the book. One reason being that there is so much information in it that I didn't know before, that the public didn't know before. And also because Shawn had the cooperation and blessing of the family to write this book, and he has a good relationship with them. And I just felt like that was important. This is not a particularly salacious case. I mean, she is still missing. Her body's never been discovered. We don't know what happened. But I wanted to be as respectful as possible when talking about it. And so I feel like the fact that he was cooperating with the family on this and has had a relationship with, now they didn't like him in the beginning, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but that was important to me. We are going to draw from some other sources, mostly just different interviews and things that happened around the time that she went missing. I did watch a 20-minute little like crime documentary episode that I think came out just a couple of years ago. I have that written down somewhere. So I have a couple of quotes from that. I did go down some Reddit rabbit holes, so I have some interesting theories and things. So we'll be drawing from other sources as well, but the majority of it is going to be, from this book. I'm going to go over kind of the structure of the episode really quick, let you know like what you can kind of expect as we're talking, and then we're going to talk about sort of our initial reactions and like kind of where we were, what we were doing sort of thing, and how we kind of remember it unfolding. So I'm going to give you some background on Lauren, the key players. We're going to walk through the timeline of events on the night of June 3rd, 2011, and the hours leading up to her disappearance. It's sort of like, it's after midnight on Thursday, June 2nd is when the whole story sort of starts. And then she actually went missing, and those hours like leading up to that are very early morning hours of June 3rd, which was Friday. Another just quick note, this book is the most precise timeline we've ever had of the events of that night. And another thing that I want to say quickly on that is he really had access to a lot of stuff. Now, Bloomington police would not cooperate with him in terms of giving him information, which it's still an ongoing case. So that makes sense that they were, He did meet with some officers, detectives, and things that no longer work there that did give him information in agreement that they would be kept anonymous.
Oh, who like worked on the case at the time?
Yes.
Oh.
He also had the cooperation of the family, so he had their entire private investigator files, all of that. He's interviewed so many people. So, I mean, this is the most precise timeline we've had, I would say, for sure. We also have a friend who was actually an eyewitness and saw Lauren the night that she disappeared. She's never spoken to the press before, which is kind of exciting. It's an exclusive interview.
Exciting.
I say that like we're the press. We're not, we're not journalists, but she's a friend of ours. She has spoken to the police and private investigators over the years. She said she's taken calls from the press, but has never given an interview.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So she will be telling her story and what she saw that night. So you'll be hearing that later on as we're kind of going over the events of the night. Then we're going to go over the aftermath the next morning as her friends search for answers. We're going to go over the initial investigation and how it kind of develops through the summer months leading up to the start of the new school year. And that's honestly kind of where the trail goes cold. I'll take you through the few developments over the years, including the lawsuit filed by Lauren's parents against some of these key players. We'll go over various tips and theories that have developed over the past 15 years. The author's not like... He doesn't come out and say, this is what I think happened, but he does sort of allude to kind of what he thinks probably happened, and the parents do a little bit too. So I'll go ahead and give my opinion on that based on the book, and then we can talk about kind of what we think happened or what makes the most sense to us. Okay, so now let's just talk about sort of what we remember from that time. We were both living here.
Yeah.
We were working at Yogi's, which is where we worked with our friend who will be giving an interview later. I was 25, I think, at the time, 2011. So not that much older than Lauren.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like...
We also both went to IU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had a lot in common with her,
yes.
honestly. Yeah. This could just be... In my memory, I remember hearing about it at Yogi's.
Yeah.
And, like, being, with a bunch of other... women our age, girls our age, and being like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And immediately, for me, it harkened back to Jill Bierman.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Bloomington, and I
was living in Brown County when it happened.
Yeah. I was living in Bloomington when Jill Bierman disappeared. So it was very much like, oh my gosh, again? Because it was a number of years. I don't know exactly how many,
think
but
Jill
it was
Bierman might have been in 2000, 2001.
Yeah, because I was in high school.
I'll fact check while you talk.
I was in high school when that happened. So, a few years, but not that long. So I feel like my first reaction was like, oh my gosh, like another woman gone missing. And this was before the day of true crime being part of pop culture and being so publicized. We weren't listening and watching true crime stories like we were today.
Right.
So like the occurrence of these things happening in any kind of numbers was alarming.
Yes.
And then I feel like my next memory is just expecting for her to be found or some story to come up, and then the fact that just nothing.
Yes.
Like she really just seemingly dropped off the face of the earth, truly disappeared, was the other alarming thing, where it's just like that. How can that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I definitely thought of Jill Bierman as well. That was in 2000. I was living in Brown County. I was about 14 years old at the time. And yeah, I mean...
Yeah, so I wasn't in high school, but...
That's okay. Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Middle school.
Yeah.
Close enough. Yeah, I remember thinking that too. Oh my God, this happened again.
Yeah.
And it took about 3 years. They did find Jill Bierman's remains and her case was solved. But it took a long time, at least what felt like a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And now I can't believe this has been 15 years. It's crazy. Right. And I remember thinking that too. Well, I remember thinking they're going to find her. I do remember thinking, unfortunately, she's probably not alive. But yeah. I was thinking they're going to find her. I also definitely thought about the fact that I was 25, so that must have made you, 22, 23? Because you had just graduated, though, hadn't you? Maybe I was younger than that.
Yeah.
I graduated.
22, I would have graduated when I was 22, I think.
Okay. Yeah, because she had just graduated in May 2011, right? Mm-hmm. And then this happened in June. And I graduated IU in 2009 in December. So, yeah, okay, this was probably 24, 25. But I remember thinking, gosh, we walk home all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really did feel safe.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I remember definitely thinking that and being like, well, maybe I should rethink walking. And there was definitely a lot of discourse around that too. After that time, I feel like there was a lot of don't walk home, by yourself.
No, it really was a change.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even guys would be like, you're not walking home.
Yeah.
Or I'll walk you.
Exactly.
Which I feel like that takes a lot for not just the women to be looking out for themselves, but for like everyone to be aware that bad things happen at night when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Absolutely. And what I mostly remember from that time was it happened. I remember that haunting image of her in the Smallwood hallway that they released. It was like a still image of surveillance camera footage. I remember the billboards going up.
Yeah, I remember her picture.
Yeah, the picture that they used for like everything, where it's like she has her head tilted just like a specific way.
She's wearing like a red or an orange shirt, I think.
Yeah. And I remember all of the rumbling about the key players kind of lawyering up and getting out of town, and there was a lot of discourse around her heart condition that she had and sort of the drug use that started to come out. And then that was really about it.
Yeah. I feel like there were I remember there being like the few rumors popping up and everyone kind of chattering about it. Like, oh my gosh, do you think that really happened? But then nothing of any seriousness.
No, nothing of substance. And still to this day, and probably forever until they find her, every time they find a body in Bloomington, I think, what if it's Lauren? Let it be Lauren. Like, her family deserves closure. Even when this is kind of crazy, OG listeners of the pod will remember my rolled up rug at the bottom of the cistern.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Literally, my husband and I, when I said we've got to pull that rug up and we can't just dump dirt on top of this rug. Like, what if someone's in there? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what if it's Lauren Spierer? And he's like, I know. I mean, the fact that we're saying that, it was this old cistern we had on our property. You wouldn't even notice it if you walked by it. I mean, it had like a concrete thing with a lid, but it was so overgrown and stuff, you wouldn't even notice it. We had to decommission it. And there was a registered sex offender that lived nearby. And it was just there. I'm saying this because, well, not that you can't call out a sex offender. He's dead. All the people that lived on that property are now dead, and the house has been demolished. But yeah, I mean,
stuff like
that was literally our first thought.
Yeah,
we have to pull this up because what if it's Lauren Spierer?
Yeah,
crazy. Okay, so are we ready to move on and kind of get into it? Okay, so I'm just going to give a little bit of background on Lauren, and this did come from Wikipedia, so just putting that out there. Lauren Elizabeth Spierer was born January 17th, 1991 to Charlene and Robert Spierer. She grew up in Scarsdale, New York, an affluent town in lower Westchester County. Spierer graduated from Edgemont High School in 2009 and enrolled at Indiana University, where she was studying textiles merchandising. Spierer was active in the Jewish community at IU and had spent the previous spring break planting trees in Israel on behalf of the Jewish National Fund. Spierer met her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf, and her friend, Jay Rosenbaum, years earlier at Camp Towanda. It's a summer camp in the mountain town of Honesdale, Pennsylvania. I believe it's a Jewish camp they would go to. Jay Rosenbaum, who will be a key player and come up a lot, she had known him previous to coming to IU, as well as her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf.
Summer camp? This was a summer camp?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think it was like a sleepaway camp. And I think they went to the camp, and then they were also like counselors and stuff when they got older,
Yeah. And did it say what year they went there? Like how many years have they known each other roughly before college?
I don't know for sure,
okay.
but
we could assume they know each other well.
Yes.
They're good friends.
Yes. Her and Jay, at least.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It was also there at Camp Tawanda where she met various other future IU students who would later become her circle of friends when she enrolled here. And he makes a comment in the book about how they like rolled up to orientation like 14 deep, all knowing each other back from New York and camps and things like that.
Nice.
Okay, so Jesse Wolf, who was her boyfriend, she met him at Jewish camp when she was 17 and he was 19. Okay. So that would have been, she probably would have been like a junior in high school.
Yeah.
Okay. She attended his frat dance with him at IU when she was still in high school. She got accepted to IU and joins him at IU as a freshman when he's a junior. So they were together for nearly 3 years in June of 2011 when she went missing. And Shawn is setting the scene in the book as Lauren kind of possibly wrestling with the idea of maybe breaking up with him, or at least that there's seems to be this kind of desire for her to experience some freedom and maybe pursue other interests. And it's not like lost on the boyfriend and some of their friends that other guys are showing interest in Lauren, and she's kind of seems to be reciprocating some of that. And so there's sort of this idea that like maybe things aren't the best between them. And there's also an air of Jesse being kind of a caretaker of Lauren when she's drinking too much, and that maybe she calls him a lot for rides from places to come pick her up, or other people have to call him and be like, hey, you need to come get your girlfriend. Lauren. Yeah. And this is a good time to mention that Lauren is very petite, okay? She's under 5 foot, under 100 pounds.
Wow, under 5 foot. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so Corey Rossman is another key player. This is a new friend and possible romantic interest. So it's a new friend who is interested in her romantically, and she was kind of entertaining it even though she has the boyfriend. She meets him the weekend before at the Indy 500. She's at the Indy 500 with a group of friends. She's flirting. He's giving her booze and cocaine. The friends that are with them are texting her boyfriend, telling him what's going on. He texts Lauren and says, I hear you're dressed provocatively, which, okay. She was wearing apparently an Obama t-shirt that she cut into a tank top, which like showed the side of her bra. Okay, so
very provocative.
Very provocative. Yeah, right. Okay. This sparked a 2-day text war between them, resulting in over 200 messages. So there was some stuff going on, right? At one point, Lauren's friend yelled at Wolf's friends and said he's being a psycho. Jesse later demanded that Lauren make her apologize to him for saying that. So wanted her friend to apologize to him for saying that, which is a little...
Oh, wanted Lauren's friend to apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a little controlling.
A little bit. Okay. And this is a note for later. So later on, there will be reports from a friend to the author that Lauren was also seen kissing Jay Rosenbaum at the Indy 500. He denied these claims directly to the author in an interview years later, and we'll talk about that a little bit more down the road. Okay, so Mike Beth is another key player, not well known to Lauren. He is Corey's, who she just met at the Indy 500, and they're flirting. He's Corey's roommate at their townhouse, and Jay Rosenbaum lives in the same building in a townhouse a couple doors down. Which is how she was introduced to Corey, I would imagine, through Jay, because they know each other because they're neighbors. Okay. Other key players, I don't know how key they are, but they pop up at the beginning of the story. David Ron, who was a friend of Lauren's, and then Scott Schwartz, who was also a friend of Lauren's. I believe they're also friends of Jay Rosenbaum's. Scott lived at Smallwood, where Lauren lives. Not sure about David Ron. He just kind of pops up in the beginning of the story. And I find it interesting that he pops up at the beginning of the story and then he just kind of fades into the background, and like there doesn't seem to be a lot of like contact with him or like interviews, which I find a little interesting. Yeah. So anyway, we'll talk about that. I have it written here. These are less significant people, but it's curious to me that they don't pop up more.
Yeah, because you think everybody would be like...
You think everybody be popping up.
Yeah, we got to keep tabs on literally every single person. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start walking through the events of Thursday night, late Thursday night, early Friday morning. So it starts, I want to say, probably around like 9 o'clock because this is during the NBA finals. And the first thing she does is go to this guy's apartment, and there's mention of them watching the game.
Okay.
And I think the game started at 8. So she is out with David Ron at the start of the night, which is her friend, at the apartment of this Scott Schwartz guy. It's a pregame party. They're watching the NBA finals. He also lives in Smallwood. Did I say that, Scott? Okay.
Yeah.
So they just like walked from Lauren's apartment, I think, to this Scott Schwartz guy's apartment. Lauren's interested in procuring some recreational drugs. So they go upstairs to her roommate's boyfriend's apartment. So her roommate, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying her name right, I believe it's Hadar, Hadar, Tamir is her roommate. Her boyfriend, this Brian O'Connor, also lives in Smallwood. So they go up to Brian O'Connor's apartment inquiring about Xanax. He doesn't have any, but he has some coke. He's like, I'll sell you some coke. So he sells him some coke. Her roommate, Brian's girlfriend, pops her head in and expresses some concern about Lauren mixing drugs, but then I guess backs off. They weren't able to find the Xanax, but O'Connor then sells her also some Klonopins, which is like a similar type of drug.
So those are the drugs she's going to be potentially mixing, Klonopin and cocaine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is
not a great mix.
Not a great mix. No. And she has a heart condition. I can't remember exactly what the condition is called. It's a rare condition. It's similar to arrhythmia.
Okay.
Where she has some trouble stabilizing her heartbeat. She actually was not supposed to play sports. Like she was told not to play sports. She still did. But I mean, that's how serious I suppose it could be, like even just on its own, let alone when you're ingesting substances.
Yeah.
And there's also not a lot of confirmation other than this of her actually like doing the drugs. You know what I mean? I mean, there's this little bit about them buying them and, you know, you assume they're doing them. There might be one passage in the book where she's actually taking the drugs, but I don't think anyone really knows exactly what she ingested and like
I mean what and how much
exactly
for sure.
Exactly.
Like,
just because
you
buy
have to assume that if you buy them you're doing them.
Yeah, but I don't think at least if anyone did see her take them and knew, she took 2 Klonopins, she did half a gram of coke, she did, if anyone knew that, then no one ever said exactly.
Right, yeah.
Is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and the details do matter.
Yes, they do, yeah. Okay, so not many knew that her parents had actually sent her to a 6-week rehab program to address her drinking and drug issues before she came to IU her freshman year.
Oh.
So there was a little bit of like hubbub at home about, okay, like what's going on? And there's some drinking and drug use. And they were like, if you want to go to IU, you have to do this first. Yeah. So she did. And here's where she also had a heart condition that could cause serious issues when using and mixing substances. And I assume her boyfriend knew. At one point, they do ask Jay. I think the author asks him in an interview, Jay Rosenbaum, and he says he didn't know. And I would imagine the other guys didn't know because they didn't really know her that well. But her and Jay supposedly had known each other from this camp and had known each other a long time. Now, again, I don't know exactly how close they were.
Didn't know that she
had a heart condition.
Oh, had a heart condition.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that seems like something you would know if
you would
close
think.
Friends, but
yeah.
I guess like maybe she was something she didn't like to tell people.
Could be,
and she didn't want people treating her differently or being concerned about her.
Right. And I remember that being a big storyline at the time, her heart condition and the fact that it does require medication. And she also didn't have that medication with her. Now, I don't know why you would necessarily have it with you, but.
Yeah. If you didn't think, if you thought you were coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing to mention too is her boyfriend and her had been texting throughout the night when she was kind of trying to decide what she was going to do. And she told him she was just like going to stay in and have a quiet night because she wanted to go hang out with this other guy.
And where is he at this point?
At this point, he's just like at home or hanging out with his frat brothers.
In Bloomington, just
they're just not
together
at this place, right? Okay. The author's kind of setting the scene of Lauren is getting texts from both Corey, this guy who's interested in her now, and her boyfriend, and she's kind of like trying to decide what she's gonna do, and she ends up telling her boyfriend, I think I'm just gonna have like a quiet night, or I'm just gonna be like hanging out with my friend David or whatever. And then she goes to meet Corey.
Gotcha.
Okay, but first they're at this other apartment in Smallwood. So she's kind of going back and forth between the apartments in Smallwood, and she's texting with both Jesse and her friend Jay Rosenbaum, who's neighbors with Corey Rossman. Both men were vying for her attention. She ultimately decided to go to Rosenbaum's to see Rossman. Her friend David Ron agreed to go with her. They leave Smallwood. They head to Rosenbaum's townhouse. Rossman was reportedly at Rosenbaum's townhouse, but his own townhouse is a couple of doors down from Rosenbaum's, and he lives there with that Mike Beth guy. Okay.
Got it.
Rosenbaum has also expressed interest in Lauren to her friend David. Okay, so this is who she's with. Yes, and that's the only like mention of his romantic interest in her. He does say something in the book about how he had expressed to David that he was interested in Lauren, and then there's that report of them kissing at the Indy 500, but again, nobody ever corroborated it, and he flat out denies it at one point later on. Okay, so while at the pregame party at Rosenbaum's, she spills a drink on her shirt. Rossman offers to put it in his dryer at his apartment. So they go to his place a few doors down where his roommate was home, Mike Beth. David noticed she was missing from the party at Rosenbaum's, texted her, and then walked down and poked his head into Rossman's to find her on the couch with Rossman in her bra. He tried to get her to go back to Smallwood with him, but she said she was going to the bars. So David Ron leaves. He's out of the picture. That's it. She's now at Rossman's apartment in her bra. David comes down to find her. She says, we're going to the bars. He's like, I'm leaving. So he leaves to go back to Smallwood. Okay. So then Rosenbaum walks down, pokes his head in, and says that they're on their way out to the bars, kind of like, hey, we're going to the bars. Are you coming kind of thing. And Rossman says, we might go later. So the other important thing to note here is that Rosenbaum had two friends visiting from Michigan. Alex Ferber. What's the other guy's? The other guy's last name is Blesnak.
What an unfortunate time to visit.
No, I know. What was that guy's first name? I can't remember. But so Alex Ferber and this Blesnak guy are visiting Jay from Michigan. So I'm assuming that Jay, and this is where like there's not a ton of details about who Jay left with. I assume him and his two friends that are visiting leave to go to the bars. They pop into Rossman's and say, hey, we're going to sports. And they say, we might go later. Okay. So Lauren and Rossman ultimately decide to head to sports, to which they walk, as they are only a few blocks away, where she's admitted with a fake ID. It was decorated for a beach party, sports was, and so she sits down in the sand, because of course they had to bring sand in, where she leaves her cell phone and shoes.
Oh, no.
Okay. Around 2:30 a.m.
Is there any report about like how intoxicated she is at this point? I mean, if she's leaving her phone and her shoes in the sand,
yeah,
I'm like assuming she's two sheets already.
Yes, she is. She's visibly intoxicated at this point. I mean, she goes and immediately just kind of like sits down in the sand, kicks her shoes off, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what that's looking like as they leave. But yes, it's safe to say she's visibly intoxicated at this point. I would imagine anyone who was in the bar and saw her would know. Yeah. Like this girl is definitely drunk.
This tiny girl's drunk.
And maybe on other drugs. Yeah. Okay. So this is where it all gets weird. Okay. They leave around 2:30 a.m. and she can barely stand. as they're leaving.
Okay.
They head for Smallwood, which is where she lives. Again, they're only 3 blocks, 4 blocks maybe.
It is crazy being from Bloomington and like when you hear a story like this and you can actually visualize
them doing it.
Yeah.
No, I know.
You know exactly where these places are.
Yeah.
It is insane to think this happened within this distance.
Well, and like, yeah, if she really did disappear off the street, if she did leave that apartment, disappear off the street, the area in which she actually disappeared is like half a block.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
wild.
crazy.
And at the time, Smallwood was like a poppin' place.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like, it's not that way so much anymore.
It's been completely rebranded.
But,
it's called something else.
But at the time, Smallwood was like all the out-of-state kids, the rich out-of-state kids lived there.
Yes.
And it was like prime time.
Yes.
Party.
Oh, yeah. I worked in the Big Red.
Across the
street from Smallwood. And every single night, didn't matter what night of the week, we would get at least 15 or 20 kids coming over from Smallwood, and they all dressed the same. They all bought Belvedere, Grey Goose. I mean, these were affluent kids that lived in this place, you know? So, yeah. Okay, so they leave sports, 2:30 a.m. She can barely stand. They head for Smallwood. They make it inside. They take the elevator up to Lauren's floor. As they exit the elevator, she needs to lean against the wall as she's struggling to stay upright. As they are standing there, the elevator dings and 4 guys step off. One of them, at least one of them, is a frat brother of her boyfriend, Jesse. So he knows who Lauren is. I don't know if they're familiar with necessarily who Corey is. It doesn't sound like it.
And she's with just Corey at this point.
She's with just Corey at this point, yes. He says, "What are you doing with this guy?" There's a bit of back and forth. Rossman trying to convince them he's got it under control. And one of the guys punches him, knocking him to the ground.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know all this.
Yes. So Zach Oakes is the name of the guy who punched him. We'll talk about that later. And yeah, so he drops to the ground. These guys that punched him, they just flee because they're like, oh shit.
All of them?
Yes.
Including the one who punched him?
Yes. And there was 4 of them total. So they flee.
Well, yeah, what was the point of that? Punching him because you're like, I'm worried about her. And then
they just leave her. No, what? I know. It's so insane. And this is the other part of the story that's so weird too, which does lead me to believe that maybe this Corey guy was like a little bit concussed or something, because also now they leave Smallwood. They're literally on her floor.
Like almost there.
They're almost there. Why didn't they just go to her apartment? It's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah. Okay. So he gets punched. The guys flee. When Rossman gathers himself, the 2 of them embark on a journey back to Rossman's. They exit Smallwood close to 3 a.m. And this is where I put, this is interesting. They are right there outside of Lauren's apartment. What made them decide to go back to Rossman's at this point? And like, really, like, what made him decide? Because he's like running the show. I don't think she was like, let's go to your place.
Yeah,
like,
she was probably just like, I'm going home.
Yes.
Like, I was just punched in the face.
Yes, that could,
like,
yeah.
You're coming with me.
Yeah.
Like, maybe.
Yeah.
Speculation, but like.
No, I agree. And I still do think it's weird that he wouldn't have dumped her at her place first. It's right there.
Or
but
like just crashed to her place or something.
Yeah. Or maybe he was hoping to still get with her, or like, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Like, do you think maybe the boys fled because they punched him and they were like, oh, we actually hurt him?
Yes. I'm sure.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And I think they were worried about footage cameras, and like, and who knows? So they exit Smallwood close to 3 a.m. and they start to head to his townhouse, which is like 2 blocks from Lauren's. So they're at Smallwood and he lives at townhouses. And I know this isn't going to make sense to people that aren't like really familiar with Bloomington, but it's like 11th and Morton.
Oh, okay. Yes.
From Smallwood.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. So on the way to his townhouse, they turn into a dark alleyway, and when they reach 10th and College, which is like the halfway point between Smallwood and his townhouse, and it's also an apartment building, he decides to knock on the door of an apartment belonging to some girls he knows. So he carries Lauren up 2 flights of stairs to reach the apartments. Like at this point, she cannot walk a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
I think he's basically been kind of like dragging her along, and then she can't walk a flight of stairs.
Because I feel like, is there footage of this, of them? Is there some clip of footage of them walking? And I feel like I remember that faintly. Like, you could tell.
Yes.
Like, she is dependent on him, can hardly walk.
Yeah, I don't, and this is where like my memory of what actually was released and what I've just read about gets fuzzy.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we've actually seen. If they did release surveillance footage, it's been scrubbed.
Yeah.
You cannot find it. I tried.
Yeah.
I definitely remember there being some hubbub, and I did see this on Reddit too, about certain footage where they're together and then it's like she goes out of the frame, and then there's some footage of like just her, and so it's possible they released some to the public at a certain point and now it's gone.
I feel like I remember a lot of weaving, stumbling.
Yeah. So what I can kind of surmise at this point is he's kind of been dragging her along. They get to 10th and College, where he knows these girls that live in this apartment on the 2nd floor. He carries Lauren up the stairs, knocks on the door. They don't answer. I have here, this is interesting. I wonder if he felt like either she wouldn't be safe back at the townhouse with them, or if he felt like he was hurt so badly that he couldn't deal with her. I'm just not sure why he did this, and who knows, he was possibly just as inebriated as her, and he's just been punched, so like it's very likely that his behavior is not going to make sense.
And like when you're drunk, especially very drunk, you make weird decisions. You do weird stuff. Like,
and I have here, was he trying to leave her there like at this apartment? Who knows. Okay. So that doesn't work out. So they have to come back down the stairs. As they're leaving 10th and College, Lauren attempts to stand on her own and could barely make it through the parking lot before she had to stop. She made her way to a nearby stairwell where she sat on the top step, resting her hand against the wall. Rossman urged her to get back up, but her hand slipped. She fell backwards, slamming her head off the concrete. Yikes. And this is where, and I'll be interested to ask our friend Rachel when she does the interview, and this may be where we end up dropping the interview in, but there's a passage that he has in the book where he says, a woman walking by, a bartender just off work, saw her fall and heard the thud.
That has to be her, right?
The only thing is like, and he could have gotten this from the private investigator files. I mean, she's never spoken to press, so he would have had to have gotten that from the private investigator files. I guess it could be someone else. So I'll be interested to see if she thinks that's her.
Yeah.
She asked the young blonde if she was okay, but got no answer. She was concerned seeing Lauren was sweaty and dazed, but Rossman looked up at the stranger and downplayed the situation. She's drunk, he told her, and she walked off. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to get her
for sure.
To get her eyewitness testimony. Okay. So then, and this is where even some of his details are a little wonky. Yeah. Because it said up here something about her making it through the parking lot. But then it says here that Rossman carried her chest to chest like an infant down the stairs. So maybe there's another stairwell somewhere. I'm not sure.
And is this information coming from Rossman's testimony or from video footage?
Video footage.
So they have all of this.
Yeah. I think Corey Rossman did like an initial whatever with the police that was required of him, and that was it. He never spoke to the private investigators. So no, this is all what I think the author has been able to piece together from the surveillance footage.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Lauren tried walking again, so he carries her down the stairs chest to chest like an infant. Toward an alley that led back to his townhouse. Lauren tried walking again. She made it a few steps before dropping her wristlet. Then she fell again, face planting on the pavement. I know.
Jeez.
She got up, fell again.
Oh no.
Rossman helps her onto a curb, and in the final moments of the two of them that were captured on video, he pulls out his iPhone to make a phone call. It was 2:55 a.m. He paced back and forth in the alley as the phone rang. He called a girlfriend from back home in Sharon, Massachusetts. The call went to voicemail. We will discuss who he called later. right now, no one knows.
Okay.
The author, that's one of the things that he uncovers and kind of figures out. So we'll talk about that phone call more later. After the failed attempt to reach his friend, he picked up Lauren, a black eye beginning to form from her fall to the pavement, which was corroborated by Jay Rosenbaum later that her eye was, she was bruised.
Oh, damn.
And hoisted her over his shoulder and started for his townhouse, now only a block away on the corner of 11th and Morton. This is the last known footage of them. Ugh, I have chills.
Can you imagine seeing that?
No. And then they just like walk
just
out of the
over
front.
A tiny girl over his shoulder. I mean, I would freak out.
Yeah.
Cause
No, I know.
You know, that just is not a good image.
No, not at all. There were no security cameras at the 5 North townhomes in 2011, which was Jay and Corey's townhomes. It was just after 3 a.m. and the streets were quiet. The truth of what happened inside can only be known by the 4 young men who were there. Rossman, Rosenbaum, Beth, and Rosenbaum's visitor from back home, Blesnak. Sorry, Blesnak. Alex Ferber, this part's a little strange to me because Alex Ferber, who was also visiting, was also there somewhere, so he must have been asleep. Also, it's reported that Blesnak was asleep by the time they got back. It's just funny because they mention those 4 guys, and then later they're like, Blesnak wasn't a person of interest because he was asleep. Alex Ferber was also there somewhere, reportedly asleep. He was the only one with a car as he was visiting from Michigan, and I think that Blesnak guy rode with him, and that will become kind of important later. That's the other thing. None of these guys have cars on campus.
Oh, yeah. That is
right?
kind of, yeah.
So it's important
detail,
to note. Yeah. With Rossman claiming memory lapse from the punch at Smallwood and Blesnak reportedly being asleep, Rosenbaum and Mike Beth become the key witnesses and storytellers of the final hour before Lauren vanished. Okay, so as they get back, and this is now just from what's being told because there's no security footage, okay? That's the last footage of them like walking. He's got her hoisted over his shoulder, walking back to the townhouse. Now, the way the story is going to kind of unfold is Corey takes Lauren back to his townhouse. He goes in. Mike Beth, his roommate, is there. And remember, this guy doesn't really know Lauren. Corey barely knows her. He's only known her for a week. And this Mike Beth guy doesn't really know her at all. Corey, apparently, he like immediately throws up on the steps. And Mike Beth takes him up to bed. Supposedly puts him in bed. I think at one point he says, like, okay, I told Lauren she could sleep on the couch. She didn't want to do that. And he's probably also like, I don't really know this girl. Like, I'm taking her to Jay's.
Oh, dropping her off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he takes her to Jay's. And we're going to go over sort of the differences in their stories and the different accounts. So Mike Beth walks her over to Jay's. And then the story is that she wanted to like keep partying and hang out. She didn't realize how late it was. It's like 4:15 in the morning at this point. She doesn't realize how late it is. She's wanting to like party, whatever. They're like, Lauren, just go to bed. She won't do it. She's insistent on leaving. She has no shoes. She has no cell phone. This is the other thing that's strange is she has her Smallwood key card, but she doesn't have her wristlet, which had her keys, I guess, in it. This is another inconsistency. There's a lot of saying she lost her wristlet, she lost her purse. They call it a wristlet, they call it the purse. When they find it the next day, which we'll talk about, they say it's just keys wrapped around a pole, like a railing that they find. So there's a lot of inconsistencies on like what she was actually carrying with her. Yeah. Was it a purse? Was it a wristlet? Was it a lanyard with keys? Were the keys like attached to a wristlet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what did she have starting
what
out
did
with
she
the
have?
night?
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies about that. Supposedly when she insisted on leaving Jay's apartment and walking back to Smallwood, all she had was her key card and her fake ID. And the key card will only get you into the building of Smallwood. You would think that her friend would know that.
Also, you would
Shouldn't
think,
have keys to get into her apartment.
Also, you would think there is no way I'm letting you leave this house.
No, I know. I
mean, that is insane.
I know, and I have a quote about that later.
A 90-pound girl with no shoes. You're
no,
gonna
I
let
know.
Walk out of your house.
Yes,
that's insane.
Yes. Okay, so that's the story. Is that this Mike Beth walks her from Corey's 2 doors down to Jay's. They try to get her to stay. She won't stay. She's insistent on leaving. She apparently leaves with her key card and fake ID that Jay apparently set on the doorknob so that she wouldn't forget them because she was insistent on leaving. Even though she had no keys to get into her apartment, which you would think he would know a key card's not going to get you into your apartment, but I don't know, whatever. He then apparently watched her walk down 11th Street to the corner. There's conflicting reports about whether he watched her from his front door or if he watched her from his second floor balcony. And then that's it. Okay? That's it. She vanished. That's it. That's it. And this is all based on what these people said. There's no more video footage after Corey's hoisting her over his shoulder. Okay. So now we're going to kind of go through the details of this. So there were no clear, consistent answers as to how Lauren got from Rossman's townhouse to Rosenbaum's 2 doors down, nor who made the 2 4 a.m. calls from Rosenbaum's cell phone to David Ron and Scott Schwartz. These are the questions law enforcement and the public have obsessed over for more than a decade. So he did turn in his cell phone. 2 calls were made at 4 a.m. from Jay Rosenbaum's cell phone, one to David Ron, who she was with earlier in the night, and the other to Scott Schwartz, whose apartment they were at watching the NBA Finals.
Okay.
Earlier in the night.
This was 4 a.m., which is around the time Lauren got to Jay Rosenbaum's.
Yes, we're assuming she's in the townhouse with him when these calls were made.
So possibly like, hey, come get Lauren.
Yes, yes. And then there's going to be conflicting reports about who made the calls. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And here's kind of 2 differences in Mike, Beth, and Jay Rosenbaum's stories, which is interesting. Beth, claiming he went to Rosenbaum's after returning from the bars to debrief the evening and even watched Rosenbaum make and eat a sandwich. He then returned to his own townhouse to find Lauren and Rossman inside. And that's when Rossman threw up. He took him to bed and he's like, I'm taking Lauren back to Jay's.
Yeah.
After taking Rossman to bed, who had reportedly thrown up on the step outside, he walked an incoherent Lauren over to Rosenbaum's. And I put here, remember, he didn't really know her that well, and she's supposedly known Rosenbaum for years, right? Okay. Rosenbaum's account. Rosenbaum claims that he received a call from Beth stating Lauren was at his apartment completely trashed and then walked her over. When asked about Beth's claims years later, about how he had been there before that and they had talked about the night and had a sandwich, Rosenbaum stated he had no recollection of the visit Beth claimed to have had with him eating the sandwich at his townhouse before returning to his own to find Lauren and Rossman and then bringing Lauren over. So those are 2 of the bigger, the big discrepancy in their stories. Mike's like, yeah, I was over there. We talked about the night. He ate a sandwich. Then I went back to my apartment.
Lauren was
and
there.
Lauren was, yeah.
Then I came back.
Right. According to Jay, his accounts, that didn't happen. And when he was asked about it later, he doesn't remember. Okay. Naturally, they become persons of interest, along with Lauren's longtime boyfriend, Jesse Wolfe. The family continued to return to him as a suspect as he was unaccounted for in the hours surrounding her disappearance. Okay? And he's got a rap sheet of suspicious activity that we will go over a little bit later.
Okay.
The family would later sue the young men present at the 5 North townhomes for neglect, claiming that they had a responsibility to care for Lauren. Their lawyers later argued the young men had no duty of care to Lauren once she left the townhouse, which they claimed she did. Also, because her body was never found, there was no way to prove death or injury, so it was kind of moot. Rosenbaum stated he had instructed Lauren to walk a straight line inside his townhouse, claiming she was able to successfully and that she insisted on returning to Smallwood, even though she was having trouble staying upright and had no shoes, no phone, and no wallet.
No shoes?
I know.
Are you kidding me?
The only belongings she had at this point were her fake ID and Smallwood key card. And I put here, which as far as we know, and honestly I feel like the boys should have known too, is that the key card would only grant her access to the building and that she would need her physical keys to get into her apartment, which she apparently didn't have at this point, as they were, and I have here, maybe attached to her wristlet that she lost along the way, maybe separate, maybe she had both. There's no clear answers as to what she actually had. This is also interesting because there are a few different accounts of what she quote unquote lost and what was found the next day. Some accounts state it was a wristlet. Some accounts say it was a purse. When it's found the next day, it's referred to as keys. No one can confirm what the heck it actually is. Rosenbaum will also make a strange claim to police/investigators about the key card and fake ID, which we will talk about a bit later, which I already told you, is that he tells them he places them on the doorknob.
Yeah, which is
weird, but okay. So some of the discrepancies in Rosenbaum's own story over his multiple accounts. He claimed in one account that he watched her from the front door, calling out to her to make sure she was truly okay to walk home. And in another claim, he said that he watched her from his second floor balcony, calling out to her to call him once she found her phone. He claimed he saw...
When you find your phone.
Call me when you find your phone.
But she's not finding
Oh my
your phone.
God. Lord. He claimed he saw her walk all the way to the intersection of 11th and College, past a construction site, which would be the site of a concrete dump the next morning, which we'll talk about a little bit later, without falling. He later recalled a possible shadowy figure approaching Lauren at the corner, which sparked abduction speculation. There are also some discrepancies about an iPod, which we will cover a bit later. And then there was also a witness that came forward reporting that they had heard a woman screaming around 4 a.m.
Oof.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Also, you think you might have seen a shadowy figure and you didn't run out
No, I
there?
know. No, I know. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, and what he kind of says about it. But yeah. Okay. So this is the next morning aftermath. Okay. So Jesse Wolf is calling Lauren frantically because he's not been able to get a hold of her for quite some time. He's under the impression that she had kind of a
wild night. Or a quiet night.
Night in. So he's like, but he also, I think, and a lot of her friends said too, and it's just like, we were like this when it wasn't unusual for her to sleep till noon one.
Right,
you know what I mean? But still, I think Jesse's a little on edge already because they're like kind of not fighting, but you know what I mean? Right. Like he's like, where's my girlfriend?
Going on,
yeah. Was she out with another guy? Like trying to get a hold of her.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's calling her, texting her, calling her. Finally, someone from sports answers the phone, picks up the phone and says, hey, we have the phone. And Jesse's like, can I come get the phone? And they're like, no, we can only release it to Lauren. Okay. So Lauren's roommate, Hadar Tamir, went to the apartment of the men who had gotten in the altercation with Rossman in the hallway at Smallwood and stated that Lauren hadn't slept in her bed and asked if they knew where she was.
Wait, say it again.
Okay.
Hadar?
Hadar Tamir, who was Lauren's roommate, is like making the rounds, hanging out, whatever. Mm-hmm. She goes to the apartment of the guys who had the altercation with Corey, the guys that punched him.
Looking for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And remember that these are friends of Jesse's. That's how they knew who Lauren was. So Lauren's roommate goes to the apartment of one of these guys.
Okay.
Because they all know each other, right? And she's like, hey, Lauren didn't sleep in her bed last night. Has anyone seen her? And they, of course, they're like, no, we haven't seen her. Now,
since last night.
Right. And again, there's really no mention of like whether or not they told the roommate that.
You'd think if someone came to you and was like, hey, she's missing, I can't find her.
Yeah,
I mean
she's not at this point, she's not missing. I think it's just like, hey, Lauren didn't come home last night. Yeah. Has anyone seen her? Whether or not they said to her, yeah, we saw them last night, all I'm saying is that that's not
didn't come up. Got it.
Right. Okay. So one of them then texts the guy who punched Corey. So the guy that actually punched him isn't there. And one of the guys that was part of the altercation, but not the puncher, texts the puncher, this Zach Oakes guy, and says, hey, Zach, that girl never came home. And I guess he texted back, no way. Meanwhile, Corey Rossman and Jay Rosenbaum are at the 10th and College Apartments pool just lounging about. And remember, this is where Rossman had stopped with Lauren halfway between her apartment and his to knock on the apartment door of those friends of his that were girls. This is that apartment complex.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
So they're at the 10th and College Apartments hanging out at the pool.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And this is also where they were when he made that call back home to a girlfriend of his, which we will find out more about later.
Okay.
Jesse's calling pretty much everyone, asking if they've seen her, and everyone is just telling him how trashed that she was. So he calls a girl named Sarah Gornish, who happens to be at the pool where Rossman and Rosenbaum are. Now, I'm not totally sure how Sarah Gornish is connected to all this, other than she's just friends with everybody, I think. So she's at the pool where Jay and Corey are. She's talking to Jesse on the phone. She gets off the phone and she asks Jay and Corey immediately, and, you know, hey, like, have you seen Lauren? Like, she didn't come home last night. And they say, yeah, they had seen her and that she left their townhouse complex pretty messed up. Okay. So the friends are like, we got to find Lauren. Like, what's going on here?
I just cannot get over that this kid, Jay, has known her since summer camp. And he was just like, yeah, just walk home.
No, dude, I know.
I can't get over it.
I can't either. Okay. They decide to head to Smallwood to see if she's there somewhere sleeping it off. On the way, one of them spots Lauren's keys wrapped around a railing.
Oh, my God.
This is where it's like, again, I'm like, was it keys? Was it a purse?
Yeah.
What was recovered? What did she have and what was recovered? Who knows? Okay. At this point, they are all texting her and calling and texting each other. They've supposedly called the jail and the hospital too at this point, to no avail. And they finally decide it's time to go to the police.
And who is they at this point?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So Jesse, the boyfriend, this friend, Sarah Gornish, David Ron, who Jesse had called, Amanda Rowd, which may be another roommate of hers. She didn't come up too much. I can't remember exactly. I didn't write down every single detail. She's either a friend of Lauren's, and she may have lived with her in Hadar, because I'm pretty sure there was like 4 girls that lived there. So that's who goes to the police station. Jesse Wolf, Sarah Gornish, David Ron, Amanda Rowd, and Hadar Tamir all go to the police station. At this point, you know, they're going in, they're saying, our friend is missing, and the police are like, we can't officially report her missing for 24 hours, but come on in and let's talk. So they let them come in and tell the story, even though they say they can't officially report her missing. At this point, it's been about 12 hours. The friends know they need to get word to Lauren's parents, and so Jesse Wolf calls Lauren's older sister, Rebecca.
Oh, God.
Lauren's sister, Rebecca, called her father, Rob Spierer, and said, Dad, Lauren is missing. Rob then called his wife, Charlene, who was in Alabama caring for her mother, and said, Char, Lauren's missing. And this is like kind of a heartbreaking thing where the mom is trying to get a flight from Alabama, and they like overbook the flight or something happens and she can't get on it. And she basically just has a breakdown at the counter and is like, my daughter's missing, and someone heard it and gave her the seat. Oh dear. Okay. So her parents arrive in Bloomington. They set up like a little makeshift control room, you know, reporting area at the Hilton Garden where they're staying, and word spreads about the story. Her parents set up a Facebook account, and the hashtag Find Lauren takes off. This is when the media frenzy really starts. This is also where we're going to have to probably call it for the day. We've got quite a bit of content, so we will pick back up next week with part 2. We're going to cover the initial investigation, how it develops through the summer months. We still have all of the theories and things that have developed over the years. Our interview with our friend and eyewitness is still coming. So thank you for listening, and we will see you next week for part 2.